As an organic farmer or gardener, one of the biggest hurdles we face is controlling insect predation without the use of chemicals. Pests can range from a minor annoyance to livelihood ruining, while organic solutions to pest control can range from ineffective to overly expensive. So today we're conducting an experiment to find out which organic and chemical-free pest control method is most effective, preferably for cheap and without harming helpful insects or your crops. But before we get started, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to help us bring you more great home farming and organic gardening tips. So first, let's take a look at our methods. Today we're going to be testing 5 different types of organic pest control. Garlic and paprika, 7 brand organic insecticide, bio-advanced organic insecticidal soap, and a homemade organic insecticidal soap. Each competitor was tested on 9 different cabbages, spread amongst 3 different locations, using a variety of different organic fertilization methods in both garden beds and pots, and there was also 6 control cabbages. For store-bought products, we followed the exact instructions on the packaging. For home remedies, we followed recommendations that we found on popular gardening sites. We observed all plants for 112 days to see how effective they were at preventing predation and to see if there was any negative side effects on helpful insects or the crops themselves. We then scored each product on a scale of 1 to 10 for effectiveness, cost, and labor requirements, as well as making note of any unique pros or cons that we thought you may want to know about. Let's see what we learned. So first things first, we're going to take a look at the control group plants, just to give you an idea of what happens when no form of pesticide is applied. These guys here, you can see, have been thoroughly and well ate up. These are the ones from group 1. This one's from group 2, and it's a great example. You can see he tried to form a head here, and it got completely savaged. Same with the outer leaves. All around, just completely eaten up. And this is a plant from group 3. It's a great example. You can see here what would have been a beautiful head of cabbage that's just been thoroughly eaten up. And this just gives you a good idea of what it is we're dealing with. These are right next to the test plants, and this is what would have happened to them had we not done anything to control insect predation. Here's another group 3 test plant. You can see they've eaten right into the head of cabbage. This is now no good. So now that we've seen what happens when we don't do anything about the pests, let's take a look at our first contestant. So we're going to start out with pure garlic powder. This is sprinkled on or around the plants once a week or after a particularly heavy rain. So here we are with the group 1 plants from the garlic powder experiment. You can see some minor predation on all 3 of them, although considerably less than with the control group. The heads inside also seem to be in pretty good shape, with the exception of this one. This is the worst victim for the garlic in group 1. And group 1, remember, these are plants that are in a garden bed, in the ground, and I think that does make them slightly more exposed to pests than in group 2 and 3. So here we are with the group 2 garlic test subjects. Plant number 1 has a minor hole right here and right here, but it's in pretty good shape, all things considered. Plant number 2 has some minor signs of predation, but still a big improvement over the control group. Plant number 3 looks great along its outer leaves until you get into the actual head and realize that some sort of caterpillar or cut bug got its way in here, and the thing's pretty well and truly ate up, which is not good. And in the group 3 garlic plants, we see, again, minor predation. Not heavy predation like we saw with the control group plants, but this is definitely not a perfect solution. Not that there necessarily is a perfect solution, but you can see here, you get some improvement over the control group, but there is still some problems here. Let's see what else we can do. So overall, there's definitely a noticeable improvement over the control group with garlic. There is still signs of predation on about 2/3 of the plants, and it's not what I think anybody would consider ideal. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 for effectiveness. I'm going to say it is an 8 out of 10 for cost. This is our second cheapest option that we have available today. And I'm going to say it's a 7 out of 10 for labor. It's pretty low labor, which is pretty run-of-the-mill for most of the things that we're going to be looking at today. So let's go ahead and see the results for the next subject. So next up, we're going to be testing a mixture. 3 parts garlic to 1 part paprika. This is my own personal mixture. It's applied just like the garlic powder, once a week or right after a heavy rain. Let's see how it works. So, group 1 for the garlic paprika mixture. You have 1 plant here with minor predation, similar to what you would see with the garlic mix. You have a second plant here with some very, very minor predation, but for the most part, it is in immaculate shape, especially the head. It's going to be a nice head that's about ready to harvest. And last, you have this one here, which seems to be in just about flawless condition. The head especially looks terrific. Very, very nice. In group 2, our pals here, this one is mostly good, but there is some areas of pretty noticeable insect activity. Looks like a caterpillar down here. The second one is pristine. This is amazing. It's gorgeous. No damage whatsoever. The third one has some damage on the lower outer leaves, specifically where they're down in the dirt. I'm wondering if something crawled up from down there, like a grasshopper or caterpillar or something. But the top, the head, looks pretty darn good. There's another one that's about ready for harvest. So I'm pretty happy with the results of that. So in group 3 up here, let's see what we got. It looks like this guy, the first subject, has no predation at all. The head is in great shape. This is another head that's right about to be harvested. The second group here, again, the head looks really good. Most of the cover leaves look really good. The outer leaves, where they're touching the dirt, do have some very obvious signs of where a caterpillar got into them. They must be, I saw this in group 2 as well, they must be climbing up off of the dirt and onto the leaf and just having their way with it. But being only on these outer leaves suggests to me that this was early on in the length of the experiment and not something more recent. So overall, for the garlic and paprika, I'm pretty satisfied with the results. We see some signs of predation on about half the plants, but amongst those, a lot of it is very, very minor. The heads themselves seem to have fared incredibly well, and I'm going to have to say this is going to be a 7.5 for effectiveness. I'm also going to give it a 7.5 for cost. I'm digging at half of a point compared to the garlic because paprika is a little bit more expensive, but not too much so. And I'm going to give it a 6.5 for labor. Again, dinging at half of a point compared to the garlic because you do have to go through the process of mixing it up. Now, let's take a look at our first store-bought pest control method. Next, we have 7, probably the most well-known of the organic insecticides. Now, this is a 2-part strategy where we're going to be spreading the granules around the plants twice monthly, and we're going to be using the spray as needed whenever insect activity is spotted on the plants. Let's see how it worked. So, surprisingly to me, at least so far in group 1, the 7 granules seem to be pretty ineffective. 2 of the 3 plants are pretty torn to shreds. This one here in the middle is in decent shape, but it's still not spared. It's still got plenty of bite marks on it. It's possible that in the garden bed, maybe the granules are just too diffuse to stop insect activity. Let's take a look at the other 2 groups. Down here in group 2, we have a little bit better results. There is a couple bites out of the first plant. The second plant, again, is pretty well eaten up. And the third plant has mild to moderate activity. This browning here is not the direct result of insect predation. That's from something unrelated, but these bites inside the head, they are from insect predation. Lastly, group 3. Now, group 3, the 7 plants actually look pretty good. I don't see any signs of predation that stick out to me. And I think, if I had to guess, here's the reason. Group 3 is immediately outside my back door. It's in my most used, my most checked garden, right? And I think that first off, the granules seem to work better in pots than in the larger garden bed. And second off, being that I look at these plants not just daily for my checks, but several times a day, I'm able to immediately detect any sort of insects on or around them and use the 7 spray. And I think that's what's required to make this work. So, some pretty mixed results from the 7 program, which is kind of surprising to me because this is name brand stuff as far as organic insecticides go. That leaves it kind of hard for me to grade this. Here's what I'm gonna say. In the right circumstances being in a pot that is highly monitored, 7 gets a 9 out of 10 for effectiveness, which is the best score we've given out so far. In the wrong conditions, which is anything that's not what I just said, it's going to be a 3 out of 10 for effectiveness. Do not recommend. For cost, I'm going to be giving it a 4 out of 10. This is name brand stuff, like I said, and you do need both the granules and the spray to use the program properly as we did here. For labor, I'm gonna say it's a 6. There is a little bit of added extra work here, especially since obviously it needs to be so highly monitored, but it's not like crazy out of control, and I think it's pretty manageable. Here would be my advice on 7 after doing this experiment. I would say use one of these other insect control methods that we've gone over here. But get yourself the 7 spray if you don't mind spending a little bit of extra money. And use the 7 spray as a way to manage if you do have some sort of pest control breakthrough past your first line of defense. Let's see if any of these organic insecticidal soaps can do any better. Now, the first of the 2 organic soaps that we're going to be looking at is this, Bio Advanced. Organic soap is, just like the name suggests, a soap that's sprayed on the plants 1 to 2 times a week or again after a heavy rain. Let's see if it has any better results than our last store-bought contestant. So down in group 1, representing the Bio Advanced Organic Insecticidal Soap. This looks pretty good. I see no signs of predation on this. You can pick up a kind of waxy texture from the soap when you touch these. This one has some minor predation, but all in the early leaves. Doesn't seem like we have anything down here. And in the third one, again, very minor predation, although this one is in both the early and the late leaves. But overall, pretty good condition. Again, aside from that strange kind of waxiness on the leaves. So in group 2, we are in good shape as well. I do not see much insect predation. There's a little bit. And this is from heat, not from insect predation. Although, yeah, you can definitely pick up that soapy feeling on these plants as I touch them. Let's look at group 3 and see how that fared. So group 3 here, I see one bite hole there and there on this plant. None on this one. And maybe a little bit down there. But yeah, overall, this seems to be the most effective thing we've tried so far. Let's go ahead and rate it. So, for the bio-advanced organic insecticidal soap, I think we saw the best results we've had so far. I saw some sign of predation on 4 out of 9 plants, so less than half. I saw notable predation on only 2 out of 9, so 7 out of 9 were protected. That is by far the best result we've seen so far. Because of that, I'm going to give it an 8.5 for effectiveness, which is the best overall score we've given for effectiveness yet. But I'm only going to give it a 5 out of 10 for cost. This stuff is kind of expensive, especially when compared to all of our home remedies. Not quite as expensive as the 7 program, but it's up there. For labor, I'm also going to give it a 5 out of 10. And the reason is because even though this doesn't get applied any more than a lot of the other remedies that we're using, if you follow the instructions to the letter, which remember we did for this experiment, you have to spray thoroughly the top and bottom of every leaf. And for something like a cabbage plant or lettuce or something like that, which are the plants that deal most with insect predation, you're going to find that that's a lot of work with all the leaves on top of leaves and folds and stuff like that. So 5 for labor, 8.5, 5, 5. Something else that needs to be noted, and I forgot to mention this when we talked about 7. These 2 products are insecticides. They kill insects. They are not intended to kill pollinators and helpful insects, but they probably do. I didn't see any sign of that during this experiment, but I don't know how they could possibly know the difference between one insect and another, kill this one and not that one. So, it's a real threat, and I just thought I would make it known. The other 3 products that we're dealing with here are strictly repellent, so you don't really have to worry about that, and that is a good advantage. With that being said, let's look at the homemade organic insecticidal soap. So last, but hopefully not least, is this organic insecticidal soap that is homemade. Now, some key differences here. Obviously, being homemade, you don't pay for this, or you don't pay for the product itself. You may have to pay for some of the ingredients. But more importantly, this is designed as a repellent and not an insecticide. It is not going to harm pollinators, but is it as effective as the other organic insecticidal soaps? Let's find out. So here we have our 3 test subjects. One thing I do want to note right off the bat is that this also does leave behind the filmy texture that the other soap left, but also seems to be very effective. You see maybe a tiny little bite mark there, but nothing serious. This all looks very good. let's see if the other two groups fared as well. So this one here, group 2, less good. The head's still in good shape on this one. This one, not so much. It's not the worst we've seen, but definitely not the best. It's interesting, I can feel that the residue is not as strong on these ones. Yeah, this one's in good shape, and it does have the residue. So it seems like it is as effective as the other organic insecticidal soap. However, it does seem to wash off easier, and when it does wash off, it does leave the plants vulnerable. Let's check group 3 and see if we can learn anything else. This one here, our lastest group. There is some rot on this, but that is again not from insect predation. Seems pretty good on the insect predation front. This guy here, also in good shape. Got a nice head on this one. I don't see any signs of insects here. And last, oh boy, this is a big guy. I am gonna go ahead and pull him tonight. He has 1, 2 tiny little bites down here, but for the most part is in great shape. Looks very, very good, and the head is flawless. So that's great news. Let's go ahead and give our last set of ratings. So, how did it work? I would say that this is better than the other 2 home remedies we've looked at so far, but not quite as good as the other organic insecticidal soap. I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is a 7 for effectiveness. It is going to be a 9 for cost. This is the cheapest thing that we've looked at here by far. It is mostly water with a little bit of garlic and some organic hand soap mixed in. I am going to have a short up, hopefully on the same day as this video, that shows you how to make this. For labor, I'm going to give it also a 5. The labor is the same as with the other organic insecticidal soap, but overall, I would say this is your most effective and definitely your cheapest option if you want to go repellent and not insecticide. So let's go ahead and take it to the conclusion, shall we? So here we are, back to the start again, and not a moment too soon because, quite frankly, I'm exhausted. So what did we learn here today? Well, first off, I definitely have to say that the bio-advanced organic insecticidal soap is definitely the best overall method of organic pest prevention. That being said, it is an insecticide and it does have the possibility of harming beneficial insects and pollinators, and a lot of people, including me, are not too fond of that idea. So, outside of that, I would go with the homemade organic insecticidal soap or the garlic and paprika mix, both of which have no risk of killing any beneficial insects or any insects for that matter, but do seem to be pretty effective at stopping the bad bugs from eating your vegetables. So I definitely think the soap is better overall. It's cheaper. It is a little bit more labor intensive, but you absolutely get what you put into things like gardening, and I think it's totally worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment with your favorite methods of organic insect prevention. Is there anything else we missed that we should have tested? Let us know. Don't forget to like the video. I hope I'll see you in the next one, and peace.